Hi, this is Karina from Ragebreed, and you are listening to Ragebreed Against Bullying. So, a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and this is it's quite an emotional one for me because I think a lot of people don't truly understand what it feels like to be a woman from a different race living in England in the current climate at the moment. Women are usually witch hunted anyway. They're judged more compared to men, and it's all to do with privilege and everything. What a woman has to face anyway is difficult, but when you're a woman of colour and you're getting sort of a lot of hate from people purely on on treating you differently to other promoters, for example, or different singers. So, for example, if you go to any signed singers page, and what they do is exactly what I do. However, I'm called a narcissist for that. I've been called a racist when I'm anti-racist, and I absolutely hate racism. I am against prejudices. I am pro-LGBTQ. I'm very liberal-minded, however, I am pro-business. I do believe in achieving your goals, and I have no issue with people becoming successful. So there's a few things here which some people think, oh, well, are you Conservative or are you Labour or are you Lib Dem? So normally I'd vote Lib Dem, but I do have I guess I do have a few conservative values in the terms of business. However, I do not believe in the destruction of human and equal rights, and that is why I don't vote for Conservatives or anything sort of far right or anything like that. I'm a Lib Dem. That means that I believe that everyone should be treated with respect. However, I am looking to tactfully vote for Labour just because I just don't want reform in. And some of these things that I want to address is the racism in the current climate. So, for example, what happened with the Sikh guy that knifed an innocent party, and that was wrong. It was absolutely disgusting what happened, but it does not mean that all Sikhs are this way. In fact, Sikhs are the most loving, kind and caring human beings you will ever meet. However, they all are about self-defense as well. They're about protecting others and protecting themselves. That's why they have the Quran, and that's how they were. And we've lived very peacefully among people integrated, and there's never been an issue. I think this is probably an isolated incident. But the far right and people like Nigel Farage will use that against the whole religion. And, it starts becoming something that starts to attack Sikhs. And we saw that with the Muslims as well, where you get a few extremists that put fear in a lot of people, whereas there's Muslims that do not believe that this is okay, and but the whole religion is tarred with that brush. Now, don't get me wrong, you are entitled to say that religion isn't for me. You can be someone that doesn't believe in religion. However, you have to live and let live, and the way you do it is peacefully, and basically as long as people can live in peace with each other, there's no problem. And we never had a problem before. We were progressing the right way. It was all about equal and human rights. And now there has been this sort of far-right Nazi mentality towards people of colour and immigrants and, refugees and things. Now, let's put everything in perspective, okay? The West overtook a lot of countries, which is why immigration happened in the first place. A lot of places had to flee their country also because of violence and, corruption and things like that. So the way that you look at it is this: if you were a person where your country was bombed and you had to go out in a dinghy right? So you're near death and everything like that. You manage to find safe passage to some sort of land. Say if we got bombed and we got into a dinghy, we ended up in France. You've gone through a trauma, okay? You've lost everything. It is absolutely scary as hell because, you can you imagine what that would feel like? And then you get to safe land, and then you've people there saying that you can't even be treated to a home or anything, or a hotel or whatever for safekeeping. And they want them in tents. Now, I'm not being funny, but that is a lack of empathy on so many levels. And bear in mind that when you are asylum seekers, for example, and you don't have access to benefits, you only have a certain amount to help you through, a difficult time. And I would expect for us, if we ever got bombed, that France would do that, or nearby countries would home us temporarily and so we have a place to live. Now, I don't understand, and let's look at this realistically. When we looked at the stats, and I've posted this in Ragebreed Against Bullying, that it's something like 1% of asylum seekers come here. They normally go to neighbouring countries, so we're picking up like a very small number compared to other places in the world. Yet for some reason, people in England have an issue with it, and I don't understand why. That there is so much like I just can't explain to you how that feels to know that people are lack so much compassion, and see it as us vs them, when we're all human beings. Now, say if we didn't even have these terms for these people, like immigrant sounds horrible, aliens, they call them alien office. These are people, these are human beings. And it's like they've taken that humanity away by labelling us and them, and then we have far right media, and it's just horrendous. Elon Musk is Nazi sympathiser. You've got Farage that is accepting 5 mil gifts, which in all honesty to me isn't the biggest problem for me. The biggest problem for me is how he has turned that Sikh situation into a battle towards Sikhs and anyone with ethnic minority and things like that, and it is absolutely disgusting. People like that should be arrested. They should not even exist as leaders. They're wrong, they're corrupt. There's no trust there, because everything that he says is untrue, and they create these horrendous stories without even getting the facts there first, because they assume every crime will be committed through a minority. Now, I was looking at a few different things where there was a postman that raped a woman who was white, but you never get Christian white male rape person. You never get the horrific crimes of people who are white that are put in the media, and it's never to do with their race or their religion. It is only on minorities. And this is why I'm trying to make people understand that this is wrong on so many levels, and we are human beings. We're not just a colour, we're human beings. I don't see people as colours and religions and races. I see them as human beings, and that's how this world needs to start treating each other. It needs to be, I'm a human being, you're a human being, and there should be compassion, empathy. The minute we lose that, we lose our humanity. And the problem is we've got leaders in power that are absolutely doing the wrong thing. Now, I'm quite impressed with Andy Burnham so far. He seems to be making a few waves, which is good. And I'm hoping that, something positive comes from him being Prime Minister. And I'm hoping that, we get a great Britain once again. I mean, I am not a socialist. I'm not a communist. I'm not necessarily, I'm not far right. I have no issue with business, and I do believe that there is a hierarchy there. However, ultimately, every person should be treated with respect and kindness, which is why I believe in human and equal rights. And the minute, and the only reason why I'm not voting Conservative or any kind of far right is because they want to get rid of that. And I have, sure, there needs to be balance, sure, there needs to be integration, but there is a gap missing when it comes to immigration and things like that. So for me, I thought it was a better idea to have cruise ships that the UN fund through different countries, and when there are asylum seekers, they can go to these ships where they can then get processed and assigned to different countries. But what they should also add in, which they don't do, which is rehabilitation into countries to know what their social constructs are, what the rules are, because obviously rules in different countries differ. So it's looking at what is the law there, looking at integration, what kind of thing, what the culture is like, and having maybe a video or a course that they do before they get invited into society, so they aren't doing anything that's harmful, that may, contradict what British culture or British, things are all about. That's the gap that's missing. So I think that's what should happen, but it should be on a global scale with the UN, inviting countries to fund these ships. So when they do go through processing, they've got a room, they've got a place to stay, and everyone invests in it. And then that way, when they decide or delegate where they're going to live, they've gone through all the processing on the ship, they're safe, and that's it. And that's what I think should happen. However, that's not up to me, and I can't make those kinds of rules. So I do believe that if they do cross the channel, we should be homing them until they, are accepted into society, and maybe looking at skill sets and things like that. And look, immigration has happened all over the world. You can't just suddenly think, right now I just want a white race and that's it. That's called, that's what the Nazis wanted to do when they wanted to destroy the Jews. And what did we learn from those world wars? We learned that everyone should be treated with respect and kindness, right? So that's the thing for me. It's like I feel as if people have lost their way. They've developed a sphere stem, and it's because of far right-wing propaganda. And we're seeing a lot of that on the internet, where they're literally just targeting minorities, showing all the bad stuff, and they don't necessarily show anything good that they've done, which is why I am starting to post in Ragebreed Against Bullying about the good that minorities do. And I want people to really look at that and see that actually we've come a long way from what we were before, from the world wars, and we have been integrating fine. There hasn't been any issues. Yes, there's been extremists and stuff, and those should be dealt with the way they have been dealt with, because they're a danger to society. And I have no issue saying that. And that can be in any race as well. So, so this is what I'm trying to say to you guys, is that, don't just get sucked in with mainstream right-wing media. We've made friends amongst ourselves with different colours, different races, and we've all managed to create, a wonderful country, and it's like, even in America, I mean, you've got Hispanics, you've got blacks, you've got, all kinds of races in America. But that's what makes America great. That's what makes America what it is, because it's beautiful having different cultures. We wouldn't have the food that we enjoy if we didn't have different cultures. And, it's wonderful to see. I mean, I love to see, going into different restaurants and different supermarkets and seeing all these lovely different types of foods and cooking with it and meeting people from different backgrounds and learning and embracing culture. Because, yes, people, And what this comes from is, people, find it difficult to deal with change. That is the underlying cause. And so they fear change, and they fear, it's like this sort of inbuilt xenophobia. But it needs to stop, because what you have to remember is human beings are human beings, and we should all be embracing each other as individuals, and punishment should fit the crime for any race. It shouldn't be like, right, one person from that race or social group has committed a crime, so that means all of them are bad and now we want them out of the country. That's mental. That's absolutely insane. It's going to happen with any social group. You're going to get good and bad people and everything in between. It's just the far right want you to believe that minorities are, they want to sort of demonize us, if you like. And I've had it. I mean, look at how I was treated in the metal scene as well. I mean, I've had it really badly, that, like, I've had people say to me things like, you're not a druidess, you're Indian, you psycho, stop stealing from other cultures. That is racist. This is why the police got, taught to that person to leave me alone. Now, there's been another instance where I was told to go back to my own country, which I was born here. This is all I know. I've come from a Sikh background. However, my parents put me in a Catholic school, so I was raised by nuns there. So I know British and Indian very well. I know all the prayers and things like that. However, I've never been a massively religious person. I would say I'm more spiritual, because I believe that religion does divide people, and it's a little bit outdated for who we are now. We need to be a little bit more progressive and intelligent, and and not be so stringent in certain rules, because there's parts in Christianity and the Bible that are wrong. There's parts in the Quran that I don't agree with. There's parts in different types of scriptures that I don't agree with. So I've never really been very, very religious person. I'm a very cultured woman, and I like to take philosophies from different cultures. I like to, because I believe your life path to the universe is your own, and this is why I'm more spiritual than I am religious. Okay, religious is about maintaining rules, and it's rules written by another person. It's not actually for me what the actual universe is what, because everyone is designed differently, with different personalities, different illnesses, different so it's not going to apply to everyone in the same way, and therefore we must embrace the differences in each other, and accept that how we are made from the universe, and we must understand that even though we have our small little differences, we are equal, we are the same, we are all going to go in a grave one day, when it comes down to it. But what your story is lies in what you decide to make your life to be. So for me, it's always been to be a good person, to do things the correct way. I do believe in do no harm, take no shit. That's my motto. So yes, I'm kind, I'm sweet, I'm loving. However, I have, I have standards of how people should treat me, and if they're not met, then I'm not interested, because my mental health comes first, and I don't accept disrespect. I don't accept abuse. I'm quite happy to have conversations, that are tactful, where you can actually have debate and all those things. We can agree to disagree is fine. However, racism is not something that I can agree to disagree with. Things like that is just pure evil, because being someone that's lived it and gone through it most of my life, it is a very big trigger point for me. So, and one of the reasons why I had to sort of let go of previous friends is because they were pro-Farage. They had they had xenophobia. They admitted to xenophobia. And these are people that were close to me. I'm of different race. My dad came over here to England. He was a doctor over there, and he had to do all his exams again to pass in England. he learned elocution lessons, he learnt the language, and he's done so well. You know, they had 2 surgeries, they served the community, you know, as Sikh people do, and, you know, they're now retired, and he's writing novels and books and things like that, and magazines, and, you know, it's wonderful. And I really respect my family and my parents for doing that for their community. But when people start to tar immigrants with the same brush is when I get really upset, because I think about how hard my family worked, and there are people over here that work really hard and contribute to society and do what they need to do. And this is why I'm trying to say to you all, stop judging everyone of different race, because the problem with the far right is, you know, they're saying that ethnic minorities are this, that and the other. So it means that for someone like me that was born in England, I was born in the Leicester Royal Infirmary, October the 1st, 1980, 1:35 p.m. You know, that's where I was born. Britain is all I know, and this is my country. And I, you know, and what is upsetting is that I'll be seen as, you know, either an immigrant or tarred with that same brush. Or do you see where I'm coming from, guys? This is what the far right are doing. So don't get sucked into it. You can still be British and proud of your country, but you don't. But it's the different races and that build this country up. Do you understand? I mean, when I was working in the finance roles that I do, it is amazing having different colours in that team, and having different people of different race and different religions, and all getting on and having a wonderful togetherness, you know. And that's what it's about. It's about love and unity. It's not about segregation and divide. And the minute you do that is the moment that we all lose, because you're causing hatred. So let's look at how, you know, War Pigs by Sabbath, for example. Let's look at that. And it is like just people in power wanting to inflict war on others for power, control, greed. And it's the innocent people that die in wars. You know, this is the problem. And then the aftermath of, you know, the far right that are trying to now, you know, target immigrants, target people of colour. It's wrong. It needs to stop. And we need more people speaking out against this kind of Nazism that is at the moment happening with world leaders around the world. It's got to stop. You know, we are the human race. We need to treat each other as such. And the one thing that people love and respect is kindness. And if we can start sharing that kindness and being tolerant and being accepting and learning about different cultures, you won't be afraid anymore, you know. And like I said to you, you know, if you have bad experience with different cultures or whatever, or someone from a different race, don't tar the whole culture with that. Don't tar the whole race. Just put that anger towards that person, as a human being, rather than it being, oh, I now hate all Sikhs because this one person did something wrong. Do you see where I'm coming from here, guys? And the Sikhs are trying to be as, you know, open about all of this. There's a lot going on my feed. I felt it was important to share some of that stuff on Ragebreed Against Bullying, because it is really important for people to see, you know, that, you know, we're a very loving bunch of people. I mean, like I say, I'm British. I consider myself British. My heritage is Sikhism, you know, which is basically believing that men and women are equal, and it's all about equality, and it's all about being kind and serving your community, which is what I do, you know. And so I do live in those sort of principles. However, like I say, I'm not massively religious. I don't, you know, follow it all really, really closely in the same way, you know, that I don't follow that type of thing. I'm pretty much a do no harm, take no shit person. You know, that's pretty much who I am. It's a very simple motto, but it's what it is. You know, I'm kind until, you know, I've reason not to be. And that's the truth of the matter. So it's all about healthy boundaries. For me, I believe in working with everybody and rising together. I'm not someone that, is, you do you, I do me. That's it. And you live together in harmony. And that's what I've always believed in. But I've always helped other businesses. I've always helped other venues. And in the end, they compete with me. And there's no need for it because I've been promoting all. But when I see that there is a type of mentality whereby they're trying to stamp me out, like I had with promotions, like I've had with certain promoters, and lie about what I do and things like that, where there's been smear campaigns, boycotts, I don't agree with that. And a lot of that, they were inviting people to hate pages where they were being racist towards me. So, like, Speak English. There was another page that had Indian food, saying this gave me diabetes and things like that. It's all racism, so this is far right stuff. This is not. If you're supporting hate pages like this, you're supporting far right. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And it's, and I never knew that there would be people in the metal scene that would actually advocate and laugh at and join in with pages that are bullying, that are, because metal's never been about that. But there are trolls in this scene. There are horrible, cruel people in this scene that believe that it's okay. And some of them got arrested, some of them got talked to by the police. So, this is the thing. So what I'm trying to say to you all is that, don't just believe in, if someone says a rumour about me, because most of the time it isn't true. They boycotted Trustpilot, they boycotted, they started to harass me, message my affiliations, my staff, tried to turn people against me. And if you're supporting this and you're not saying, sorry, we're not interested, we know Karina, we know what she's done, then to me you're just as bad. Because if you're staying quiet or you're supporting them, to me it just feels like, you're supporting something that is ultimately wrong in a moral way, and for me it's unacceptable. So, it's okay to, want to have your business or whatever, but you can't sit there and do obstruction of business, which is what has happened to me. So I've been targeted. It has been racist, because I've been treated differently, and I've been lied about as well. So, these are things that you have to kind of take into consideration. A lot of it was aggressive promoter rivalry and their friends. I know the reasons why they're trying to do it. However, Ragebreed will always stand strong, and we will always make sure that we fight the good fight. I've had to block a lot of people that keep saying very derogatory stuff towards, Muslims and Sikhs. And it is a very scary thing to be a woman in leadership at the moment, because you are faced with so much prejudice. And, I know even on that hater page they were laughing that I was a feminist. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, let's look at Marie Curie, who, you've had scientists and people that have done incredible things. Women have done incredible things. 100% equal. 100%. And I will always believe that, because I've seen amazing women do something absolutely incredible with their careers. And I'm so happy about that. I think it's incredible, and it's great to see men to do the same. It's great to see all sexes do the same. I'm all about the thing what people don't realise is there can be some women that are a little bit more tomboyish, and there can be some men who are a little bit more feminine. And, you will find that across the board, that you're going to get all kinds of personalities. And therefore, when it comes to, identity and things like it is going to differ sometimes, and people might identify more with, a different sex. And my belief is a little bit outside the box when it comes to things like that, because I believe in past lives. And so, I think sometimes you identify with a different sex or whatever. For me, I just think I'm a confident and strong woman. I don't believe me to be anything other than a woman, because I'm just soft and strong. I can be very cute and very, sweet and everything. But I can also be strong and opinionated, and, I have very, very bold beliefs in certain things. And I seize the day. I'm not afraid to be myself. And I have a lot of opinions that other people probably don't. I'm pro AI. I don't mean that for all the music, for example, but I have no problem with someone using, a bass line or something, and if the other parts of the music is real. So I have no problem with that. Or even like voice. I know Dave from Demon Christ uses it's like a vocal tool or whatever, but it's his own voice. He just adds an effect on it. So you're always going to get, when it comes to the production stage, you're always going to get, a certain amount of this, because it's always in the production stage with the sound engineer or producer. My issue is, and even with posters, I have no issue using a poster to save time. I'm a graphic designer. I do my own art, but sometimes I will use AI just to save time. That's only on social media posts, but and potentially, like if there's like a cover photo I need to do or something, that type of thing. Because my time is very limited and AI helps that. So, there's been a lot of like, oh, AI crap, and some people have actually accused my whole song to be of AI. It's not. John Mitchell actually performed, all the music part for that. I wrote the song, but he added bits to it, like, solos and strings and samples and all So, this is what I'm trying to say to you guys. I have no real massive issue with it. There's a lot of people that are very, no, don't believe in it, blah, blah, blah. Up to you what you believe in, but don't go around trolling and hurting other people if they do use it. It's all about being against bullying, and that's what Ragebreed Against Bullying is about. You're going to have differences of opinion, but don't start being rude and condescending. Just, it's fine for you to say, well, I would prefer this, but you've got to remember that most artists don't have access to a lot of funds. There could be people on disability, so, they will use AI to do artwork because it's easier for them. It's like my radio DJs. They said it's easier for us to just put it through AI and you get a poster. Fair enough, no, not a problem. And I have no issue with it either. Like, no problem whatsoever. So I'm not really a kind of person that's anti-AI. I believe it's the future. I believe that it's, it's incredible. I mean, and even music videos that contain AI, no issue. Because you've got to look at it like this. Look at all the movies that we have CGI with. I mean, it's the same thing. Do you see where I'm coming from? So stop moaning at people that may use it, because it's probably something that they're doing to save costs. It's probably because it's just a lot easier for them, and it's, time management and all those kinds of things. They may not have the budget to invest in, certain things, so it saves time. And for me, if it works for you, it works for you. I've got no issue with it. So for me, AI has been a bit of a lifesaver for me, because it's helped me, especially with knowledge, if anything. If there's something that I want to know, you know, I can ask AI, and it's incredible. It's fantastic tool. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So yeah, that's what I believe anyway. So that's the thing. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, please don't just keep believing rumours. I mean, there's been so many ridiculous rumours recently. Obviously, you guys know about a certain artist that left. I'm not talking about another demon, but she said that she left Ragebreed and she didn't. We let her go. We've got emails to prove that she's made false emails about myself and my client, and yeah, it's just all rubbish. Everything that she's done and said has been lies, and it's just been absolutely horrendous. So she's even left, you know, a horrible review. As far as I'm concerned, people that lie, and you know, she's already shown me that she's a liar through three or four times now. So I'm not interested in people like that or having them on my label. In regards to another demon, no issue there. You know, we both entered on good terms. I want them to, you know, I think they're looking for a bit more of a bigger label, which is fine. I mean, we're kind of more of a part-time label for, you know, the independent artist. So yeah, that's where we are. So look, you know, for me, it's you know, I have no issue with another demon whatsoever. Okay, so me and Frank are very good, cool. And have no, I think they're a very professional band. I'm very happy with them, and I think that they'll do great. So yeah, it's not a problem with that at all. In terms of sexism, so this was something that was brought up where, and I'll mention this because there was a guy who said to me once, why don't you just stay at home and have babies? Now, and I'm going to talk about this because I had a friend who actually said a woman's job is to breed, and she's done her bit. And I'm gonna be quite honest about the whole thing. There are some women that have PCOS or endometriosis. I don't have that. I have PCOS. That might struggle having children, may have had miscarriages before, and have had to deal with it privately and things like that. So no, not every woman's life path is to have children, okay? In the same way some men, you know, their stuff doesn't work. So no, it's not every woman's job to breed, and not every woman wants to breed. Do you know what I'm saying? So I've got friends that said they've never really wanted kids. Not a problem. I've never had children, you know, and I've not really had, if I'm honest with you, I've never really had the desire to. I did at one point. I was thinking, oh, you know, that'd be nice and everything, but actually I'm not really all that fussed. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't, you know. And if it does happen, it would have to be in a love relationship. I wouldn't just, you know, just have a child for the sake of having a child. You know, so that's where I'm at with that. And I do believe that people need to be a little bit mindful when they start saying things like that, because it's very hurtful to women who don't have, you know, don't have the capacity or may have problems conceiving and things like this. You know, and I know people that have done IVF, things like that, and all sorts. And my cycles are pretty normal now because I lost a bit of weight, and you know, they're literally, my cycles are normal every month. I stopped, you know, using contraception stuff, and yeah, they've gone back to normal in a normal cycle. I do have PCOS, so I have to deal with a lot of side effects, physical and hormonal and stuff. So I'm navigating that the best I can. And yeah, that's it really. I think, you know, so for those of you that, you know, haven't had children yet, or you know, don't feel that that's your job if you're a woman. You know, you don't have to have children. And this is why I'm saying to people the same thing. Your life path will always differ because it's down to your own experience and what you truly want. And if I do decide to have a child one day, fine, but I'm getting on a bit. I'm sort of 45, so I'm not that fussed about having children, but if it happens, it happens. For me, first is to build a solid relationship and have a solid home, and build a proper sanctuary first. Because, for me, it's important to have safety in a relationship and safety in the home, and it to be a safe place. That's the most important thing for me. So yeah, I'm gonna now probably sign off, because I think I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about in terms of bullying and the problem with the racism side of things, sexism, and obviously the things that I've undergone. But I thought it was really important for you guys to sort of see it from my point of view, and see how strong a person has to be a public person of colour who's a woman and isn't necessarily a skinny person. I'm plus size person, but I mean, you guys have been so loving and so supportive towards my pictures and my videos and things like that, and it's so nice to receive that kind of feedback. So it shows that women who are plus size out there, don't ever feel that your size determines your worth just because there's horrible trolls out there. Just keep believing in yourself and just love yourself as you are. You've been given this body as it is. Up to you how you want to take care of it. I believe in balance, and I have been trying to lose some weight and doing, but I have diabetes type 2. I take insulin and things like that, and I'm on injections. So I'm trying to lose this weight as best I can. But when you have PCOS, it's a hormonal problem. So it's also about reducing cortisol and stress and things like that. So for some people weight loss is easy. For others it's going to be more difficult because of conditions that they have. So be kind is what I'm trying to say, is be tolerant, be kind, have empathy for people, because everyone's going through their own storms behind closed doors. Love each other, be kind, and stop trying to hurt others and taking your shit out on other people. If you've got problems, you're feeling anger and pain, go to a therapist, sort it out, go to your doctor, don't take it out on people. It's all about dealing with your insecurities properly, rather than taking it out on people that are close to you or friends or whatever. It's so important. So really the underlying thing is learn to love yourself and learn to love other people. And if you learn to do that, that's what's going to create unity and a beautiful world. Right now we're in a very scary climate, but remember, it's togetherness, it's about unity, and that's what Ragebreed is all about. And the only time that we will ever have, we won't work with people that have displayed traits of bullying, racism, harassment. It's just not right, and so therefore we won't work with those sorts of people. So yeah, we're more than happy to work with people that are accepting and tolerant, but we certainly will not be working with people that display racism and all those sorts of things. Okay, so yeah, I am gonna love you and leave you. Thank you for listening to Ragebreed Against Bullying, and I will speak to you soon. Take care, keep it metal, keep it Ragebreed, and be excellent to each other.